YTPC. Padre Piper coming to you via the virtual airwaves of YouTube. To say hello, YouTube Pipe community, I pray that you are finding the blessings in your life. I'm recording this on a Monday, a little before lunch break. Some house cleaning. This is my Rattray's old Gowrie, a beautiful instrument for smoking pipe tobacco. It does what I'm smoking in it so well. You say, what is it you're smoking in it, Padre? I'm smoking something that ain't there no more. I'm smoking some McClelland's red cake. Oh man, how I wish I had found that earlier and had stored up, I don't know, a couple 100 pounds of it or something. Throw a question out to you. I know I'm not the only guy out here who enjoys the McClelland's red cake. Has anyone found a replacement, something close to this wonderfully smooth red Virginia smoke that is the McClelland red cake? If so, let me know in the comments. Again, coming to you, I'm so relaxed. Look at this, man. You know, just in a recliner. Oh, look at that. Oh, I'm exposing myself that I'm in blue jeans today. You know, it's Monday, and that's a day that a lot of clergy take that day off. You know, it's their one day off for the week. You got to remember, people often think, I'm going to rant for a little bit. People think that, you know, priests and pastors, ministers of all sorts, particularly preachers, that's all they do, you know. They got one day a week they work. It's only a half day if they only have services in the morning. And what do? They get up and talk for a few minutes. Yeah, right. Sometimes Sundays are the easiest day in the life of a clergyman. And I'll tell you this too. There's a lot of folks now. I know I'm preaching to the choir with the YTPC folks, particularly the presenters. There's a lot of folks who don't appreciate the art and science and frankly the gift that God has given preachers, that they can get up and speak in front of a congregation and do that week in and week out, you know. And some traditions it's only on Sunday, and some there's a midweek service. Some folks have daily services, you know. But there's all that other, you know. And I saw a stat that said something to the effect of, for every 2 minutes of a sermon or a homily, you can add 1 hour of study and preparation time for the minister. And I don't know if that's a fair assessment. It may be more for some, it may be less for others. I don't know, but that is during the week. That's a lot of the time that's spent by clergy members is in prayer and in preparation and in studying what they're going to be preaching on. And it really is difficult work. If you think about, if you're not a public speaker, you think about maybe you were in college or in high school, you had a speech class, and you had to prep to give a talk. How much time and energy you put into preparing that talk, and how stressful it might have been. And you know, we do that all the time. And that's a tiny part of our job. That's just a tiny part of our job. Then there's the visitation. There's going to hospitals. There's going to homes. There is sometimes offering spiritual direction. Sometimes there are counseling appointments that ministers will provide. There are meetings, because usually churches have committees, and churches have boards and councils and vestries and consistories and all these other things. And guess who's expected to be at all those meetings? Sometimes presiding over them. That's right, the Padre. And then there's the administrative tasks. Basically, in a lot of settings, if not most settings, the senior minister, if you will, is the CEO of a little company. That company is called, the parish or the congregation or whatever term is used. And so the CEO has a lot of administrative tasks. It's more than just getting up on a Sunday morning and talking for a few minutes. I'll tell you that part. Anyway, I don't know how I got off onto that. Oh, I know why. It's Monday. A lot of ministers will take Monday off. A lot of clergy, that'll be their day of Sabbath. And I kind of sort of do that. I don't usually have any kinds of interactions with anyone on a Monday, but I do come to work and I take it as a casual day. I do usually wear a clerical collar on that day just in case somebody pops up at the office unexpectedly. I don't want to look too unprofessional, but I'm also wearing blue jeans, so I'm a little bit relaxed today. And I use this as Monday is my day of fasting and prayer. So over lunch, what I will do is I'll offer my noon hour prayers, and I'll do extended intercessory prayer for the people who are on my personal prayer list and those who are on the church's prayer list. And usually this is praying for the sick. I like to joke that my Mondays are days of fasting and prayer for the sick of our church and those who are sick of our church. And then sometimes, this is the problem with a video, right? You talk and you don't keep your pipe puffing and lit. And his red cake is well worth keeping lit. So sometimes on a Monday, over lunch too, I'll head over to Holy Eucharist at the cathedral. They have a 12:15. And that way I get to receive the word and the sacrament, and I can get some spiritual nourishment that way as well. This is so good. I'm going to give a shout out to Ghost Cobb because I know he likes the McClelland red cake. And I feel your pain, brother, that it's gone away and ain't there no more. But I'll tell you this, my friend, Mr. Ghost Cobb, you've got some coming your way. Taking care of you, brother. Oh, what else is on Padre's mind today? I'll tell you something that's weighing heavy on me. It's amazing how we can be moved by things, by loss. That's not amazing. Of course we're moved by loss. But loss of not just people, loss of things. Like, I really do think the pipe community grieved the loss of McClelland blends. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a psychiatrist who did a fair amount of research in loss and grief, and she wrote extensively about the 5 stages of loss and grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and those first 4. They're often in that order, but you can move in and out of denial and into anger, into bargaining, back into denial, anger, bargaining, depression. And you usually resolve the loss and grief at the level of acceptance, some kind of level of acceptance. And it was funny, I noticed a lot of denial. A lot of people saying, oh, they're not really going to, it's a marketing ploy, McClelland's. That's just them marketing. And anger, people really ticked. How dare they not sell those recipes to Sutliff or C&D? Bargaining. Go to eBay. Enough said. Depression. I think we're all saddened by the loss of McClelland. Even if we're not big McClelland fans, we recognize it's almost a microcosm of the industry, or maybe a little snapshot of the industry, that it's not as healthy as it once was, and that, if we keep losing these businesses, perhaps the FDA is winning this war against our freedoms and acceptance. I don't know. But anyway, you might have experienced that sort of feeling too about folks you never even met, but they passed away. We've had at least two that I know of in the past week, celebrity suicides, and it's just awful. I was moved, and I printed this out because I wanted to share it with you today. There's a guy by the name of Dr. Charles Krauthammer, and you may or may not be familiar with him. I find myself relating to him in a lot of ways. He's a psychiatrist, and he's done a lot of political commentary and such. He's been a syndicated columnist. He's been a news commentator on Fox News, and there's a lot of things I like about him. One is there are times when he says stuff and I'm like, yes, yeah, that's it, that's spot on. There's other times he says things and I'm like, man, my buttons got pushed. I couldn't disagree more with what he just said. And I don't know a whole lot about the guy, and I was one day kind of being sort of flippant with a friend of mine, and I happened to mention that I think it was after he had pushed my buttons on one of the issues, and I don't even remember what the issue was, but I said something not kind about Dr. Charles Krauthammer, and who I've never met, don't even know. And what I said was, oh man, he's being a blowhard. The guy looks like death warmed over. And that was really insensitive of me to say. It was before I knew the full story of this gentleman. When he was a first-year medical student, he was involved in a swimming diving accident. And as a result of that accident, neck injury, spinal cord injury, he was paralyzed from the neck down. And so when I would see him offering news commentary on, say, Fox News, for me to then say he looked like death warmed over, I really feel bad about that. I had no idea he was in a wheelchair. I had no idea that, his breathing was labored because he's been living with this injury his entire life. And there's a lesson in that for all of us. You never know what somebody's going through. And, one of the beautiful lessons of Christianity that unfortunately doesn't get taught probably as fervently and as frequently, as often, as accurately as it should, I dropped my temper, is lessons of mercy and grace, that we should always be willing to extend mercy and grace. And it's the human condition that, frankly, we don't do that as often as we should. Mercy, grace. This is a very Christianity for Dummies definition, so I apologize in advance to my brothers and sisters who are theologians, but this is a neat way of remembering it. Mercy is not receiving all the bad and the punishment that's actually due you by, say, God. Grace is receiving all the good that you really don't deserve. And I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of Christian theology on that. If that's something you're interested in, talk to me offline, and I'm happy to speak a little further. But there's a universal lesson in there. I think that whether one's a believer or not, whether one's a Christian or not, mercy and grace is something that we should be finding ways in our lives to extend to everyone. Anyway, with Charles Krauthammer, he had that injury. It paralyzed him. He ended up completing medical school, paralyzed, after spending 14 months in a hospital. He completed Harvard Medical School. He did a residency in psychiatry, which is one of the reasons I think I find myself also pretty drawn to him. And unfortunately, what's going on these days with him is he's not been writing, he's not been on the air, and he wrote a letter. I want to read you some excerpts from it. It just says, I've been uncharacteristically silent for the past 10 months, and I thought the silence would soon be coming to an end, but I'm afraid I must tell you, now that fate has decided on a different course for me. August a year ago, he was diagnosed with a cancerous tumor in his abdomen, and he required surgery, and the surgery was quite successful and was doing very well. He goes on, he says, however, recent tests have revealed that the cancer has returned. There was no sign of it as recently as a month ago, which means it's aggressive and spreading rapidly. We never know what people are going through. We just don't. My doctors tell me their best estimate is that I might have only a few weeks left to live. This is the final verdict. My fight is over, Dr. Krauthammer says. And he goes on and he offers thanks to his doctors, his caregivers, his friends, his family, his colleagues at the Washington Post, at Fox News, Crown Publishing, etc. He thanks his readers, he thanks his viewers. And he closes and he says, I leave this life with no regrets. It was a wonderful life, full and complete, with the great loves and great endeavors that make it worth living. I am sad to leave, but I leave with the knowledge that I have lived the life that I was intended. And wow, what powerful wisdom in that. You know, we had a little fun on my channel with the Ain't There No More giveaway and people writing their obituaries and their eulogies and such. But do you ever stop to ask yourself in a serious tone, you know, are you living the life that you're intended to live? Are you doing the things that you're being called to do? You know, with my Christian lens, I would say it, are you listening to the Holy Spirit's gentle whispers in your ears? And I recognize not everyone who watches me and listens to me is a Christian, so you can put that in your own terms if you like. What are you doing with your life? Is it what you're being called to do? Are you living up to it? To quote Garth Brooks, if tomorrow never comes, are you gonna have any regrets? I regret that I said something really insensitive about Dr. Krauthammer so many moons ago, and I did say that before I knew what he was facing, not this cancer thing, that he was paralyzed. You couldn't tell that necessarily from the camera angles. You couldn't tell he was in a wheelchair. Brilliant man. And if you're the praying type, I would ask you to join me in offering prayers for a peaceful death for him as he's in his final days, and prayers of peace and support for his loved ones, his family and such that he'll leave behind. Yeah. I don't know. Wanted to share that with you. I'm not quite sure why. Just felt moved to do that today as I enjoy this bowl of red cake and prepare in a little bit to go into my time of noon prayer. Also been thinking, I'm going to change gears for a moment. Oh, actually, before I change gears, there was a quote I read about back in, I think it was 2010. Former President Bill Clinton said of Dr. Krauthammer, what did he say? He called him, I think, did I write it down? I wanted to jot it as a little note. Yeah, called him a brilliant man. And you got to understand, Charles Krauthammer is a little bit right, well, probably a lot right, of Bill Clinton. But it was very nice of Mr. Clinton to say that about him. And his response, tongue-in-cheek, was basically, oh man, that just ruined my career. Folks, we got to have a sense of humor in this life, even with people, especially with people we disagree with. We can agree to disagree and remain civil and still offer a smile and find reasons to laugh together and such. I'm going to close it out, but before I do, a couple of things I wanted to throw out there. I'm thinking of starting a series, and I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a video series on some top 5 lists. I've always enjoyed top lists. I've enjoyed doing them. I've done a couple of them before on here, and I think I'm going to do a little summer series of installments of some top 5 tobacco type things in different categories. And I'm thinking my first category is going to be Padre's top 5 codger blends. Just kind of been in a codgery mood lately. Obviously red cake wouldn't fit that bill. But anyway, thinking about doing that. So keep an eye out for that. If maybe you can suggest, I've got about 6 or 7 top 5 lists I've thought of that I can do. Maybe you've got some suggestions for one. Maybe some of you out there want to do some top 5 lists too. Different categories of tobacco, your favorite English, your favorite Virginia, your favorite smokes by the seaside, or your favorite blends to smoke when you're in the car, whatever. Just some thought for some content for some folks. It's getting to be about that time of the day for me. I'm going to have to sign off and finish my my cup of black coffee. These 2 things are allowed when fasting. It's Padre's rules. Because Monday without coffee is not pleasant at all. Listen, friends, I appreciate you sticking around and letting me chat for over 21 minutes now. And I appreciate my subscribers and folks who just stop by and watch, even if they're not a subscriber. You can become a subscriber. I'm happy to have more. I just love interacting with you folks, and those folks who choose to comment, I like your comments. I like talking to you in that manner as well. But all good things must come to an end, so I'm going to sign off for this video on this Monday. This is Padre Piper, wishing you and yours God's peace, grace, and blessings. Find a way to extend mercy and grace to some folks in your life this week.